In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Keyframe Animation on Adobe Premiere. This could be used to make images more interesting on the screen. For example, if you're using loads of still images, it's a bit boring to have them just appear one after the other, whereas you could actually make them move to make it a bit more interesting as well. It can also be used if you've done some green screen stuff, or if you want to Photoshop kind of any image into it and just have it on the screen. It's quite fun to use. So to show you what I mean, these images from the Disney parade, I've now made a bit more interesting by having them move across the screen in different ways. That's zooming out. This is zooming in. And this is changing position and zooming out at the same time. So I've got a bit of lag on these, but that's just my computer, so don't worry about that. That hopefully won't happen with you, and certainly won't happen once it's rendered. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to do those movements. It's all done in the effects control panel on the viewfinder. Make sure the image or clip that you're keyframing is selected, so it appears in both boxes. You want to open the effects controls. Keyframing is done with these little toggles over here. You can do it with anything basically, opacity, the speed and movement. For the purpose of this, we're just going to focus on movement, but feel free to obviously experiment with whatever you want. Now at the beginning of the clip, you need to have the playhead in the correct place. It also shows it up here. So for the beginning of the next 5 seconds, I need to move the image to where I want it to start. So for this one, again, a bit of lag. I want it to move slightly just from one corner to the other. So I need to make sure that my canvas is actually full, like that. So that's my first position. Now I'm going to set my key, or toggle as it says here. And you see here there's a little diamond. This is an animation point. That means it knows where it's starting. I want it to move quite slowly, so 5 seconds for it to get to the end. So you need to move the playhead to the end of the image, either up there or down here in the timeline. And this time I don't actually need to set my toggle, it will do it for me once I finish the movement. So I'm going to move it up like that. It's gone a little bit too far, so just move it back slightly. That'll do. So this line is what my image is going to follow. With a bit of delay. On the next image, I'm going to do a zoom out. So again, bring your playhead to the beginning of the clip, effects control, put it to the position that you want it to start in. This time, this is scale because it's the size. As you can see here, it says 145. So I'm making it start bigger than what would be 100. So I set my scale, put it to the end. Because I know I simply want this to be the size of my frame again, I can just set the scale to 100 without actually messing around with the cursor. So this time it zooms out like that. Now this one, I'm going to zoom in. So again, make sure it's all selected in the right places. So this time we want the position to just start with the image in the frame. And again, it's scale. Now you could do one of two things here. You could put the playhead at the end of the clip and say you just, put in a random number and say that's where you want it to zoom into. Or you can use the cursor to move it to where you want. That's much easier, of course. And this time we're zooming in, like so. Now for the last one, I'm going to do position and scale, just to give it a much more interesting movement. So I want it to start a little bit off like that, but I still need to fill in this frame, as you can see here. So I'm going to position and scale needs to be a bit bigger. But simply again, all you're doing is putting the image in the bit of the frame that you want it to start with. So there. So I've made it bigger and changed the position slightly. By the time I get it to the right size, the position also has to move. And I'll show you why. So I set my position and my scale. If I just did the scale to 100, it will zoom, but because the position isn't moving, it's not filling up the frame. So we need to make the position change too. Like so.